talk to us about how Express Pool or Pool Express works. I've heard it both ways, and how it's different from Uber Pool.
Sure. So it is Express Pool, and what we do is that we ask riders to walk a little and wait a little in order to have a much better ride. It's both more affordable to them because we can match more efficiently, and the ride itself tends to be straighter and faster.
So how many trips in the U.S. on Uber are actually Uber Pool trips at this point?
So any moment now, we're going to cross 1 billion total Uber Pool trips, which is obviously a milestone we're pretty proud of for a product that launched a little over 3 years ago. In the cities, we're live in 16 cities in the United States, and within those cities, Uber Pool makes up about 20% of the total rides.
So what are the percentage of people who request pool trips who actually get matched?
I don't have that exact statistic, but typically what we're trying to do is we're trying to get 3 people into the car at the same time, because that's where we have the most efficient ride, which allows us to offer the most affordable price. And so I'm sure all of us have experienced those rides where we're the only passenger in the car on a pool. That may feel great for that single ride, but over time it means that we can't offer such an affordable price. So what's great about the walking and waiting that we've added with Express Pool is it increases our likelihood of making a high quality match, which means that we can offer that affordable product over time.
So I was just looking at some of the coverage of it today. Gizmodo saying, honestly, just take a bus. How do you respond to that?
So if you read past the headline, that's actually a pretty good article that talks about the differences between Express Pool and a bus. We think that public transit is a wonderful complement, and we are a complement to it in terms of what we each do. Public transit works really well on very high capacity routes where you can run large vehicles, and Express Pool works much better because it's dynamic in terms of its timing, in terms of where it picks you up and drops you off, and also dynamic in terms of its route for those complicated sort of cross-city journeys that maybe pick up and drop off that last mile from a public transit option.
So Uber Pool has been sort of a controversial service in that a lot of riders love it because you can get a ride really cheaply, but drivers don't necessarily love it. You know, how do you find a happy medium?
So let me break the drivers don't love it down into 2 elements. Number one, drivers are working hard and would love to make more money. And so we've actually introduced late last year pick-up and drop-off fees specific to Pool to pay them for the effort that they do in order to make Pool work as a service. Looking at the non-monetary component, there have been some things that we have done in terms of how we manage the service that made it less fun to be a driver, such as the routes and detours and backtracking that you would often see as we were trying to make a match between 2 riders who weren't necessarily most compatible. One of the reasons why we wanted to launch Express Pool was to not just make it better for riders, but to actually make it better for drivers as well. Because if you feel uncomfortable sitting in the back seat of a shared ride, waiting for it to make its way around the block to pick someone else up, your driver doesn't feel any better about that either.
How much money do you actually make on Uber Pool? Does Uber make on Uber Pool?
So that's pretty difficult to break out. We are very pleased with the progress that we're making in terms of overall profitability as a company. You've seen some of the public financials that we released recently, and the curve is quite a nice one. And we're very excited that by making Uber Pool more efficient with Express Pool, we can continue on our path to profitability towards a future IPO.
So that's my question is, how much does Uber Pool actually contribute to Uber's financial performance, and how much of this is simply driving a mission of more democratized transportation?
So what I love...
I realize Uber is not a charity, but...
We are definitely not. We are a very commercial business. What I love about Uber is that the combination of the mission of making cities work better and provide transportation, I think is going to be a tremendously profitable business over time. And Pool is clearly a large component of that, and one that's going to grow even more with Express Pool.
As Uber starts to look more like public transportation, how does the company think about city-run services? I mean, you know, new CEO, Dara Khosrowshahi said that in 5 years he'd like to see Uber running bus systems and entire city transportation services. Does this move you closer to that vision?
So There are things that we are very good at doing, and one of them is providing highly dynamic transportation options, and the other is building software. And I think both of those things are wonderful complements to what public transit agencies tend to do, which is to have huge fixed infrastructure and to move millions of people incredibly efficiently. I think there are many different ways that we can partner with cities in the future. For instance, we have a pilot with the city of Cincinnati where we're starting to explore with both the city and its transit agency different ways that Uber can complement public transit, not only in terms of coordinating at a data level, but in terms of Uber potentially even taking on some of the lower ridership routes that aren't particularly efficient for public transit to run.
Now, you joined Uber 11 months ago.
I did.
This is just as Susan Fowler's post went viral, kicking off a very long series of dramatic moments and leadership changes. Now, Dara Khosrowshahi is the new CEO. What has that been like for you as a new employee, and what do you think about the new guard?
So I chose to join Uber about a year ago because I knew many good people there who were working hard on the future of transportation, and they were people that I believed in, and it was a mission that excited me. And we had a pretty tumultuous year last year for sure, but what I'm excited about is a lot of that is now in the rearview mirror, and those good people can continue to work on the future mission of transportation. And I think Dara has been a phenomenal addition to Uber, and I'm very excited to be working at a company where he's CEO.